Hey guys, so I'm looking at doing my 50-hour maintenance routine on this tractor. It's only got 30, so I got a little ways to go, but I was just trying to get everything figured out in terms of what has to be done and how on this particular tractor. This is a 2021 BX1880 tractor. And they've added some features on here which I've not seen in other videos around this. Then hopefully there's some things here that I think will be useful for people that are on the newer versions of these tractors looking to do some of the regular maintenance. So the first thing I looked at was, how do I go about changing the gas filters? And so there's two filters on this engine. One is down here, you can see, got my finger on right here, is the secondary one. And then there's another one under here, which is the primary filter, gas filter. And you can see it kind of is positioned under there. Now, one of the nice things they did in the I think this is something they added in the 2020 or later, is they added this guard here. A lot of people have been buying shields from BX1880 to kind of accommodate this. This comes standard now on the tractor. The problem is that it makes it much harder to get at that particular filter to change it out. So one of the things you can do is this is bolted on with 4 bolts along the side here. And if I take this in, you can see there's a bolt back here and then another one that goes along the bottom here. Now I've taken this one out just for this video because it takes a little bit to get them off. These things are torqued on there so tight, so be real careful not to strip the bolts when you go to take them off. And then if you loosen, just take the 2 bottom ones off on each side, one over here and then one over here, if you can see that. It's basically on this plate here, so right up in there. So you take those 2 lower bolts off and then just loosen the top ones. You don't have to take those all the way off. Then what you can do is you can slide this protective plate down and get it out of the way, so it makes it easier to access both the filter for the hydraulics and the gas filter. One of the things that you'll have to do when you're doing this filter change is you'll have to pinch off the gas line here. So you'll want to get like a needle nose plier or vice grip that's fairly needle nose, and get it up in there and clamp off this tubing here so that you can stop the flow of gasoline from the tank when you go to change this filter out. Leave that on while you do both filters, and then once you've got them both off, don't forget to take that off. But this should make it a little bit easier to get at those particular components of the oil change here, of the gas filter change. So one of the things that amazed me is how tight these bolts were on. So I have these bolts here, and you can see this thing was torqued on there pretty good, so tight in fact that it kind of mashed the lock washer on here. So I'm going to just use my vice grips to kind of put it back into shape, but before I put it on. But make sure you lubricate these screws before you put them back in, so that they'll be much easier to take off the next time. And don't over tighten them. They don't need to be as tight as they did them from the factory, because once you get rust and other things on there, they're going to be hard enough to get off even after you've loosened them. So make sure you lube them up and give them a washing and clean around the plate if you can, to keep the rust from building up in there. But that hopefully gives you a little bit of an advance notice on how to get those gas filters out. I think that was the trickiest part of this, what will be the trickiest part of this maintenance procedure, frankly. Everything else seems like it'll go pretty straightforward. The air filter here is very accessible with just the regular roof open. I even have my forks still on, so I didn't even bother taking those off. And if we go around to this side here, you've got access to your oil fill, and then access to your filter down below here. If you can see, it's right here. There's the filter. So you'll need to get a good wrench. There's a 65 millimeter end cap wrench that you can use to get these off, which I might go to, or you can use, you know, a pair of these pliers here that are, these are offset, so they make it a little easy to get inside that particular filter. And these hopefully will work as well. But you won't be able to get them off by hand. I can guarantee you that, the way they tighten these things. And then your rear filler tube is down here, so you'll need some sort of a funnel, a long pointed funnel to get in there, potentially a flexible tube on the end of a funnel would also work for you there, to get that filled in. And then finally, once you got those fluids changed, the oil, the hydraulic fluid, don't forget this front axle component, because this is, you know, something that they, very few videos I've seen have referenced or mentioned this here in terms of the maintenance. So there's a dipstick in here, and you'll want to keep this checked and make sure that there's always fluid in here. Now they ship with the same transmission oil from the factory that they put into, or the gear oil that they put into the transmission. So it's the UDT 2 oils. But I've heard enough people recommend going to an actual gear oil, an 80-90 gear oil, in terms of weight, that will, you know, prevent any kind of leaking that can start to occur with some of this thinner oil. So if you especially start to see any kind of leakage from any of these, it's time to probably swap out the original fluid in there and put in a good 80-90 weight oil. Again, easy access to the bleed screws down here. So that screw is right in here. You can see is easy to access, and then you can, these top valves here are bleeders. One of the other things that's important to note is when you do change the gas filters, you'll want to make sure when you go ahead and get these filters connected back up, you remove your clamp from your line, then you're going to want to loosen this bolt here. This is an air vent, and then you'll basically crank the pump into the pump position, and you'll hit the tick, 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 and this will leak some oil, some gas. It'll just kind of blow out of here, and then once that is running clear and fluid, you can go ahead and close that off, and that makes sure that your air is all out of that gas line. So you don't want that air to get trapped in there. So again, this little screw here, if I focus in on that, my light's kind of blasting it, but you can see that screw right there is the bleeder screw. So don't forget to do that step in the context of changing those gas filters. For me, I don't understand why you wouldn't change your gas filters more regularly. Those are probably the most important thing in terms of getting clean fuel to the engine. If those gunk up, and there's two of them, so either one gunks up, you're kind of out of luck. So it can explain a lot of issues that you might have if you're going to be in changing oil filters and getting under the tractor. It's probably worth just go ahead and change those filters as well. So that's all I wanted to share with you. Hopefully this gives you a good sense of what you can expect on the new BX 2020-21 series tractor.